both Michigan and Michigan State, remaining a prominent fixture within the college football landscape. Recruiting will play a major role in the viability of both programs. So, who has the in state edge when it comes to acquiring players? To fill in the blanks, I turn to Josh Helmholdt, a Midwest Rivals.com recruiting analyst, to see who has the inside edge. Josh, first of all, we want to welcome you to the Two Man Advantage podcast, and we're excited to talk some college football with you this morning.
Good to be here.
So, Josh, could you just give me a general overview of your thoughts on the recruiting classes for both Michigan and Michigan State?
Yeah, both are kind of in different transition periods, not transition periods per se, but just in different stages of their recruiting. Obviously, Michigan State has had a run of success that has allowed them to greater build their brand, both in the region, in state, and nationally. And their recruiting program, their recruiting process right now is really a well-oiled machine. I mean, to the point where they were so successful in the Midwest in 2016, they didn't have to go outside the region to get prospects. And they have in previous classes. Georgia specifically has been very fruitful for them to recruit from. The East Coast, particularly New Jersey, kind of that DMV type area, over by Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, has been very productive for them. But right now they're just kind of a well-oiled machine. They didn't even have a very big class and still were able to sign the number 18 recruiting class in 2016, this past February. So those are the incoming freshmen. Michigan is in a completely different stage where you've gone from Brady Hoke, who really recruited very well at Michigan, just wasn't able to put the results on the field, but he was able to bring top-rated prospects in. But now you have Jim Harbaugh, who's completely dominated the headlines from a recruiting standpoint, and grabbing the number one player in the 2016 class in Rashawn Gary was very noteworthy. It's the first number one player since Terrell Pryor to sign with a Big Ten team. So that's 2008. Now we're 2016, almost first player in a decade to sign with a Big Ten team. But they've gone a different route. They didn't have success in region, in state in 2016, and so they've had to go nationally. They were not able to beat out Ohio State and Ohio, Michigan State for many of the in-state prospects. So, even though they, signed the number 4 class in the country, they didn't have a particularly successful recruiting effort in-state and in the region.
Now, could you tell me your thoughts on where Michigan and Michigan State's respective quarterback battle stands with both schools changing signal colors this fall?
Yeah, and so obviously, they're looking at, you got to replace a Connor Cook. You have to replace, a guy that's been there for a long time. Michigan State always has, they're always an upperclassman-led program. And so the expectation is a guy like Damian Terry will come in, and be the guy, because he's been in the program for a few years. But they signed 4-star Brian Lewerke out of Arizona in the 2015 class. And the guy I really know best over there is their true freshman, already on campus, Messiah DeWeaver. This guy is a natural-born leader, and he's a tremendously talented passer as well. Rivals 250 prospect in that 2016 class, and what I think sets him apart is his intangibles, the ability to take over a huddle and make things happen, lead 10 other guys, to the end zone. So could Messiah start as a freshman? I wouldn't put it out of the question, but obviously you look at Michigan State's history, They prefer upperclassmen. I think that's a situation. Over on Michigan's side, they've had Shane Morris. He was obviously a very highly recruited quarterback coming out of Warren De La Salle High School in Michigan. Up at, left-hander, one of the strongest arms I've covered in a long time, and it seems like he's continually getting passed over. Talent-wise, I have no doubt he's the most talented quarterback on that roster, even more so than incoming freshman Brandon Peters, who I know a lot of Michigan fans are excited about, but his game is not really suited to step in and start as a true freshman. I fully expect that he redshirts. You also have John O'Corn, the transfer. A lot of expectations for him. And then Wilton Spate, who's been on that roster a couple of years, he had a pretty good spring. So it'll be interesting to see. In my personal opinion, for Michigan's offense to open up the way it needs to open up or be the most potent, I think Shane Morris is the guy that gives you the most from a physical tool standpoint. But how he understands the system, how he brings the rest of the team in, and is able to be a distributor, that's obviously questions for the college football analyst, not the recruiting analyst, to answer.
Now, how do you think Michigan can get back in the good graces of local recruits? How do you think, you mentioned before that they've had to have more of a national broad appeal, but how do you think they can steal local recruits away from Michigan State, if at all?
Well, they certainly Michigan State has done a better job of ingratiating themselves at those programs, and they have longer relationships with those coaches. Jim Harbaugh and his staff skipped the Michigan High School Football Coaches Association conference last year. That didn't leave a good impression on a lot of people. Now, that kids that grow up Michigan fans in the state of Michigan, they're in the good graces of local recruits and local high school coaches. They shouldn't be doing that in this 2017 class.
Now, what do you think of the future or the incoming 2017 recruits for both schools? How are both schools getting off to an early start for their next incoming class? Could you tell me about that?
Yeah, Michigan's off to a good start. 11 commits, as I said, 4 of them being from inside the state of Michigan. Josh Ross, who's the brother of James Ross, who was a multi-year starter at Michigan at linebacker. He's one of those big-name recruits. Dylan McCaffrey, who's the brother of Stanford do-everything running back Christian McCaffrey, is probably their headliner right now, one of the top quarterback prospects in this 2017 class. So he's committed to Michigan early on. I think I last checked right now, Michigan has a number 8 recruiting class going in 2017 nationally. Michigan State is off to a good start. I believe they have 5 commitments right now. Picked up a quarterback out of Iowa, a kid I like, one of these kind of big arm, strong arm kids, Rocky Lombardi out of West Des Moines Valley High School. Very college, produces a lot of college talent. So be interesting to see really what goes on here. Spring evaluation period started last week Friday. That's a big time for these coaches to get on the trail, and you see a lot of recruits being picked up. Michigan State also has their spring game coming up this weekend. Wouldn't be surprised to see a couple more commits jump on board then.
Now, could you tell me how big do you think the in-state rivalry will be for recruiting between Harbaugh and D'Antonio as they fight for local recruits? And how important do you think the hiring of Harbaugh was to get Michigan back on solid footing from a recruiting standpoint in the eyes of recruits?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they weren't getting the job done on the field, and that success on the field is one of the biggest catalysts to recruiting success. Now, like I said, Brady Hoke recruited well,
Well, yeah.
and he was able to bring in talent, just wasn't able to do much with it. Harbaugh's shown the ability to do something with it, and that's going to continue to keep Michigan recruiting at a pretty high level. This 2006-17 class is going to be a watershed moment in terms of in-state recruiting, though. If Michigan has more missteps in-state, like I said, if they recruit over some of their early in-state commitments, and last December, January, we saw a few guys that were processed out of the class. That's not going to leave a good taste in the mouth of local high school programs and coaches. And then you have a chance of Michigan State kind of shutting the door for the top in-state prospects. Like right now, Michigan's doing a pretty good job in-state. 4 in-state commitments, including, as I mentioned, 4-star Josh Ross. Offensive tackle Jerayman Hall out of Oak Park is another one. They got Carter Dunaway, who's kind of a legacy recruit out of Brother Rice High School. So, they've done well right now. How they do going forward and whether they have any missteps is going to decide really if Michigan State closes the door on Michigan in-state, or if Michigan's able to start making a dent in the success that Michigan State has had recruiting, particularly that Detroit area over the last few seasons.
Now, finally, I have a two-part question for you, and it has to do with the overall conference itself and how you think recruiting is going for the Big Ten Conference. And again, how do you think Harbaugh's previous experience in the NFL will be playing in the minds of recruits?
Definitely. I mean, I've not met a high school recruit who didn't have an ultimate goal of reaching the NFL. So having a coach at a particular program that not only has coached in the NFL, but has coached in the Super Bowl, that's a huge selling point for Michigan. And one of the reasons I think Harbaugh was able to have immediate success. A rising tide raises all ships in the Big Ten. Big Ten recruiting was down into the Southeast region, which is crucial to recruiting because that's where the majority of top prospects are. And the Midwest, was getting poached. Some of their top guys were getting poached by SEC, ACC, Big 12 type schools. So the Big Ten has recruited, Ohio State, I think, was number 3 recruiting class last year. Michigan was number 4 recruiting class in the country. That's a huge step up from where they were. So I think, not just Harbaugh, but certainly an Urban Meyer being one of the best recruiting head coaches, in college football. James Franklin's an outstanding recruiting head coach. Mark D'Antonio and the program that they have over there at Michigan State is, as I said, a well-oiled recruiting machine right now. And then you have some others. I think with Iowa's success here in 2015 season, Kirk Ferentz and staff are going to have a very good recruiting class here in 2017. Already started off, had the number 28 prospect in the country in defensive end, A.J. Epinesa. They're doing very well.